So to start, we're going to be looking at the segment population that surrounds the Sources of Strength program in Campbell County, Virginia. So Campbell County, Virginia is located in South Central Virginia and has a current population of 55,304. 20% of this population is under the age of 18. So the priority population for the Sources of Strength program is 5th grade students in public elementary schools in Campbell County, Virginia. And this is primarily due to suicide being the second leading cause of death in the 10 to 34 years of age group. And students in grade 5 are aged 10 to 11 years old, so they're at the very front of that spectrum. Addressing suicide prevention in children aims to start the conversation earlier and expose children to concepts that are typically not addressed in this age group. Leading health indicators are a small subset of high-priority Healthy People 2030 objectives selected to drive action towards improving health and well-being. The leading health indicator I chose for this project was MHMD-01, reduce the suicide rate. From the Healthy People website, suicide is reported as the 10th leading cause of death globally. In Virginia, 13 per 100,000 deaths are attributed to suicide, while in Campbell County, Virginia, 15 per 100,000 deaths are attributed to suicide. Sources of Strength in Campbell County is a 10-month school-based curriculum designed for students in grade 5 to learn about coping strategies. The mission statement of Sources of Strength in Campbell County, Virginia is to provide evidence-based prevention of suicide by increasing health-seeking behaviors and promoting connections between peers and caring adults. For this program, I identified 2 main goals in order to reach all of our objectives, and these 2 goals are listed here as 1, to provide children with the resources and education on mental health, and 2, to develop a platform for children to form connections with peers and family. So here we're going to be going through the objectives for Goal 1, which, as a refresher, is to provide children with the resources and education on mental health. The process objective is during the 2022 to 23 school year, 5th graders in Campbell County Public Schools will participate in the Sources of Strength experience. For impact learning, by December 31st, 2022, 75% of students will be able to identify 5 coping strategies for suicidal ideation. The impact behavior objective is by May 31st, 2023, 80% of students in grade 5 will be able to practice emotional regulation. So here we're just continuing on with those objectives for Goal 1, which is to provide children with the resources and education on mental health. The impact environmental objective is by January 31st, 2023, there will be a designated mental health counselor at every public elementary school in Campbell County. The overall outcome of this goal is by May 31st, 2023, students in grade 5 of Campbell County Public Schools will participate in the Sources of Strength experience, and 75% will have an increase in their general understanding of mental health as shown in a pre- and post-intervention survey. So here we're going to be going through the objectives for Goal 2, which again as a refresher was to develop a platform for children to form connections with peers, family, and community. The process objective is during the 2022 to 23 school year, 5th graders in Campbell County Public Schools will participate in the Sources of Strength experience. This is the same as that objective for Goal 1. The process objectives are the same. The Impact Learning Objective is by May 31st, 2023, 75% of students will learn how to identify and promote healthy friendships with people who uplift, encourage, and support. For Impact Behavior Objective, by December 31st, 2022, 60% of students will practice perspective taking and conflict navigation with their peers. So here again, we're going to be continuing on with those objectives for Goal 2, which is to develop a platform for children to form connections with peers, family, and community. The Impact Environmental Objective is by May 31st, 2023, every public elementary school in Campbell County, Virginia will have a designated safe space for students to congregate. The overall outcome is by May 31st, 2023, 75% of students in grade 5 of Campbell County Public Schools will self-report feeling more connected to their family, friends, and community. Okay, so now that we've gone through the objectives, we're going to go narrowing in on the interventions that specifically target these objectives in Goal 1 and Goal 2. So at the top, I've kind of reiterated the process objective, which, as I mentioned before, are the same for Goals 1 and 2. And it's during the 2022 to 23 school year, 5th graders in Campbell County Public Schools will participate in the Sources of Strength experience. The intervention that will be taking place at Campbell County is the enrollment in Sources of Strength by the 5th grade parents, and then selection and training of school coordinators, caring adults, and peer leaders. There will be 31 lessons spread out across 12 units to be given over the 10-month curriculum and bi-weekly meetings with the school coordinator, caring adults, and teachers throughout the program. So here we really get to dive into those interventions for that first goal, which, again, as a refresher, is to provide children with the resources and education on mental health. And for the Impact Learning, it's going to be lessons 1 and 2, which teach coping strategies, and they're going to be able to do an activity with the coping strategies as their intervention. For Impact Behavior, it's lesson 3. I'll give later a breakdown of each of the lessons and what they have, but basically lesson 3 is regulations. It's emotional regulations, and there's a regulation railroad activity where the students will be creating artwork with the railroad for regulation. And then for Impact Environmental, there's going to be a selection and training of youth mental health counselors for each of the 7 public elementary schools in Campbell County. And then there will be introduction to the students of the counselors. For the interventions for Goal 2, which, again, as a refresher, is to develop a platform for children to form connections with peers, family, and community. So with the Impact Learning, we're going to be going through lesson 6, and that's going to be talking a lot about friendships and healthy friends, and it does a ball toss activity to kind of promote that kind of learning. For Impact Behavior, we go through lesson 4, which really is going with perspective taking and not conflict navigation. So we'll have a discussion on that. And then there's Tom's story, which I'll credit a link to it that you're able to access on the Sources of Strength site that will kind of go through that story and how that's going to be a part of the intervention. And then for Impact Environmental, this is my favorite. We're going to be creating a safe space in each of these schools. And for the first start of this intervention is the selection of a room or an area in each of these public elementary schools that they can designate a safe space for the students. So in forming this safe space, we're going to need comfortable seatings like bean bags, chairs, and cushions and couches, things that are just going to be a very warm, comfortable environment for students to congregate. There's also going to be art that throughout the 10-month curriculum students have created that they're able to put up into this room or this space so that they can see what they've been doing throughout the year. Volunteers or staff will be supervising the area throughout the year, but it's going to be open to all public elementary school students. And then along with that, hopefully we'll get donations for an assortment of activities like books and coloring books, games, fidget toys, music, all those kind of things to just kind of create a very safe environment that is healthy for students, and they can form connections with their peers in this environment and just hopefully have healthier behaviors and coping mechanisms. So I added this in more or less as something just to kind of have a breakdown of what's going to be going on through those 10 months prior to the intervention start. And you can read just as well as I can, but it really is just kind of doing the breakdown of the entire program with how we're going to be relaying information and enrollment, along with like key dates like the first day of school, along with fall break, winter break, spring break, and then the unit end. So you can just kind of look through that for each of the months on what units will be given and all of those details. So here we're going to be looking at personnel resources that are needed per school for program implementation. And in the corner you'll see program coordinator, which is me, and I'm kind of off to the side because I'm not super involved in the program as much as school coordinators and the caring adults and peer leaders, but I'm going to be helping the entire intervention and all that. But the biggest player in the personnel resources is the school coordinator, and there's going to be one designated school coordinator per school, and they're going to be overseeing the entire program and making sure everything is running and functional. And they're going to be reporting any flaws. They're going to be conversing with the caring adults and the peer leaders and the youth mental health counselors and the volunteers, and just kind of going through the entire rundown of the program. And then from this, we're going to have 5 to 10 caring adults, which are specifically chosen as individuals, adults that are influential and supporting to these students. And then we're going to have 15 to 25 peer leaders, which are students in 5th grade that are going to be motivational students that are going to help facilitate the program and encourage other students and uplift them. And then the youth mental health counselor, which was a part of one of our interventions, is just going to be there to kind of oversee a lot of what's going on and also have different opportunities to talk to the students about certain issues and jump in on some lessons. And then I added 30 volunteers that we're going to need per school, because I think for functionality of the entire program, it's going to be beneficial for us to have people from the outside that aren't in the actual school, maybe parents or volunteers from different organizations that just kind of want to be a part of this kind of program. And they're going to help, supervise that safe room that I had mentioned earlier. And they're also going to help with the Facebook posts and kind of coordinating with the students and different activities. So here is the curricula and instructional resources, and kind of touched on earlier in the timeline. It kind of goes through all those units and the timeline that it's going to be taking place. And then here you're actually able to see those first 6 units, which are the overview of sources of strength, brain and body science, emotional regulation, physical health, family support, positive friends. And then you can kind of pan over to what's going to be discussed in that unit and when that unit's going to be taking place. And again, here more resources, and this is going through unit 7 through unit 12, and it just kind of goes through each of those lessons of the mentors, healthy activities, generosity, spirituality, mental health, and navigating transitions in life. The proposed behavior change theory for the sources of strength program is a social cognitive theory, and the social cognitive theory combines behavioral and cognitive factors of learning and suggests that learning is the result of observing behavior and attitudes. The self-efficacy construct of the social cognitive theory will allow for better understanding and practice of motivation. The social cognitive theory states that self-efficacy beliefs are major determinants in regulating behavior and are needed to enact change. Self-efficacy can be in mastery experiences, vicarious experiences, social persuasion, and reducing stress reactions. For sources of strength, self-efficacy will be utilized as we aim to teach students how to cope with mental health issues and perform behaviors that are healthy in suicide prevention. Previous studies have shown higher levels of coping self-efficacy were associated with less social anxiety, cognitive depression, and externalizing symptoms. There are numerous proposed benefits to the participants and the community in this program, with the first being a reduction in youth suicide within Campbell County, Virginia. Additionally, participants that complete this program will be better emotional regulators and have the resources and abilities to overcome obstacles in their future. The community overall should feel more connected after the Sources of Strength implementation. It's just going to bring together a lot of people, and it's exposure to all these new concepts that have not really been taught to students, I think, up until this point. And it's really, I think, going to create a better future for a lot of people, and it's going to bring together an entire community. So here we're going to be talking a lot about the stakeholder involvement, and I've identified 4 key partners that we're going to be utilizing in the Sources of Strength program implementation in Campbell County, Virginia. So our big key partners that we're looking at are Campbell County Public School System, and that's going to look at all the administrative leaders and the board members, people that are key in the public school system there. Another key partner is Sources of Strength, as we're going to be getting all of our information from them. And then HOPE, which is Hearts of Purpose and Empowerment, and they are big supporters of Sources of Strength and often fund a lot of community implementations of Sources of Strength. And then finally, we're going to be wanting to involve the Campbell County Public Health Department, as they're going to be huge information and spreading the word to the community about this program and ensuring that people are enrolling. So on the side next to that, we have our key activities, and as I kind of touched on some of this, it's information, evaluation, and implementation. Those are the big things that these stakeholders are going to be helping us with, and as I said with the public health department, they're going to be giving a lot of that information out, and they're going to be a part of that marketing strategy. And they're also going to be a part of the evaluation process after implementation and looking over a lot of the surveys that we've collected and finding if there's been any effectiveness in the program. The school district's also going to be helping with that evaluation process too. And then as far as implementation, Sources of Strength really helps with the bulk of the material on that, but the Campbell County Public School System is going to be really the sole target of implementation because it's going to be taking place in those 5th grade classrooms. So for our key resources is the Sources of Strength material, as previously mentioned, and then our school coordinators, which I touched on this, how important they are, but they are really just huge players in this entire program. So I'd like to include them as a key resource because they're not essentially a stakeholder, but they're going to be pretty big in coordinating with those partners too. And then for the cost structure, the cost of the program to each participant is $25, and the price of the program per school is $5,000 to obtain that access. And then we are equating about $1,500 is going to be needed for supplies in that 10-month program school year, which would be the total program cost per school is $6,500. If we're implementing all 7 schools, it's going to be $45,000. The $25 fee per student enrollment is going to hopefully cover that Source of Strength access fee, that $5,000 access fee code. And additionally, we're going to be partnering with Hearts of Purpose and Empowerment HOPE, as they are going to be able to provide additional finances for the supplies as well as funding for coaches and train the trainer costs. Then we look into value propositions, which I'm pulling in the 2 big players of our stakeholder involvement. It's going to be the Campbell County Public School District, as this program is going to benefit the children in their school system, and it's a K through 12 school system, so it's going to be benefiting the students years to come with their behaviors and anything coming after that, with just being better emotional regulators and hopefully better students. And then as well, I noted the public health department, Campbell County Public Health Department, as a value of this program is it's going to benefit the mental health overall in Campbell County, and that's going to hopefully change behavior and kind of steer away from many of those Like, we're really looking at reducing the suicide rate, but from a program like this, you can reduce more than just the suicide rate. We can reduce the overall mental health burden that the county is having, and then we're also can maybe reduce drug overdose mortality, because people are finding that through a program like this, they have better coping mechanisms and they're not doing this. And those are just kind of those value propositions that you can bring over to the public health department in supporting our program. And we really want the public health department on board, because they're going to be helping with a lot of that information and the marketing, as I mentioned, where they're like very big in that whole part. The big channels we're going to be using are Facebook. We'll have a designated Campbell County Public School page, and then we also will have a separate one for the 2022 to 2023 Sources of Strength program year, which will post little snippets of the lessons and the students and anything that has gone on in those last 10 months. We'll just kind of be updating the family. And then we also will be using email as a primary communication with the parents, and that also is helping with enrollment and information relay. The school webpage will also be very big in the channels for our marketing. And then below we'll have the revenue streams, which is, as I mentioned, the Hearts of Purpose and Empowerment, as they're really funding a lot of the coach and trainer costs. And then we're also looking at Campbell County Public Schools as that $1,500 fee if we're not able to get it covered by HOPE. That's going to have to come from something in the school system, whether it's donations or some type of fundraiser. And then I added Campbell County Public Health Department. I have not really went further into how we could get revenue from them, but I was really leaning on them for more of the marketing strategy. So if we don't get physical revenue, we might be able to get some help in our marketing in the community as far as the public health aspect.